Well, I hope you'll take your morning break with coffee and take along a copy of Town and County magazine. It is only in the Lewis area, I'm afraid, for the moment, but we do plan to. Good morning, it's Keith Hayes, Keith Hayes again, because the one thing that hasn't changed in television from the old days with the new technology is that it quite often goes wrong. And this morning, I don't know what it is about this particular broadcast this last week. We had more technical problems than you could shake a stick at, and everything seemed to be going fine until we checked back to see whether we'd been recorded this morning. I got all sorts of messages about streaming, which I don't totally understand. So we thought, I thought that we would do this again, just to make sure that it goes out to those of you who do enjoy watching Break an Egg at 5:45 in the morning. Okay, I'm Keith Hayes. We're broadcasting from Lewis. This may be a truncated version. I'm not going to go through the whole thing again because I don't want to bore those people who may have seen it or watched it while it was live. But anyway, very quickly, we're over there is the White Hart Hotel, where Tom Paine wrote his famous treatise, The Rights of Man. And The Rights of Man was all about how the ruling elite in the UK in the 1800s, late 1700s, early 1800s, should give way to some governance of the people. And he famously said there should be a House of Commons. But before he could do too much here, he was threatened with treason. Well, he was charged with treason. And he went off back to the States, but he went to the States and it actually helped foment the War of Independence. So it was Tom Paine, who is considered to be the father of American independence. They all know about him there, but we don't seem to know much about him here. And this is the hotel where he spent a lot of his time writing some of his treatises, and also challenging the right to speak at a place called an organisation called the Headstrong Club, which exists to this day. I don't know that it meets at the White Hart anymore, but in those days it was a key debating society and talked about the reforms that were perhaps needed in our society. And that was Tom Paine. Now, over here is the courthouse, which has seen many famous cases. And one that I always think about is the late 1940s, is John George Haigh, who murdered 9 people. He claimed 9 people. He was charged with the murder of 6 of them, and he stuffed the bodies in an acid bath and dissolved them on the basis that if you hadn't got a corpus delicti, in other words, a body, you couldn't be charged with murder. How wrong he was, because they found some false tooth and the gallstones from his last victim, and that was enough to convict him. And he went off and he was hanged, hanged by the neck until dead. And that was John George Haigh. But the important thing about that trial, actually, apart from its gruesome nature, is that it took the jury exactly 12 minutes to convict him. And there you are, that's where it happened. Let's just talk about a couple of other things. You saw that I put this up, and now the RMT have said that they are going to strike on Southwest trains in June. A whole week's strike that they've called on this issue of what I would call a guard, and they now call it onboard supervisors. But anyway, somebody somewhere has got to be on board the train, according to train companies, and the train companies say they don't need them, and the union says yes you do. I suspect that it's a political football. It's one of those things that the unions use to get all sorts of other things like pay rises and so on and so forth, and the train companies use to justify their high train fares, and so the battle royal starts. Hasn't been announced on Southern yet, but I got to the train station yesterday morning and there was nobody in the ticket office at 10 o'clock. I bumped into a good friend of mine, a very seasoned journalist, and he said, I've been down there to get my ticket, and there's nobody there, and they say they won't be there until 10 o'clock. Sure enough, we got there, there was nobody in the ticket office. And I very sagely, he's a wise man, said to him, look, John, you know, the fact of the matter is, these are the signs that indicate that either the franchise is up for grabs, in other words, the train company doesn't want to, it doesn't want to spend any money, or that, excuse me if we jiggle around a little bit for a moment, or there's a strike looming. Sure enough, there's a strike looming. And it is most inconvenient. I got onto the train because I couldn't get a ticket. There was no guard to be seen anywhere. Mind you, I mean, he was on the microphone, the PA system, announcing the various stations, but the train was jam-packed. He couldn't get down, and I couldn't get to him. So I got off at Victoria, and thankfully, there's a very nice lady at the barrier who understood the situation and let me through so I could get a ticket in the evening to come back. But you know, I walked the length of the train. And the moment they got to Victoria, that guard, he scuttled off as fast as he could. I suppose he didn't want to face angry people who couldn't get a ticket to go to London. So, you know, there's no grace. There's no positive approach to anything from the unions, from the actual workers themselves, from the company. You know, who's going to suffer? Us. So, let me go back to we, the people. Let's kick up a real stink this time, because people lose jobs because of this action, and it's just not on. It is not acceptable. And it all comes down to Chris Grayling, the Transport Secretary, who, when he got complaints from Maria Caulfield, our local MP, replied to her as, I've looked at the statistics, it's a very efficient company. Well, that's very typical of today's politicians, I'm afraid, and what I've been railing about all week is we've got to get rid of these people, and particularly Grayling, because he's not doing anybody any favours. It just is outrageous what he's doing. In other words, he's doing nothing, and we're in for another, it looks like, miserable summer, when you will never know whether the trains are going, and that they will strike at the drop of a hat. People will lose their jobs. You couldn't believe that in the middle of plenty such things could happen, so that we cannot benefit from our economic boom. Astonishing. Secondly, Steamer Trading have announced that they are going to close their stores, or a lot of their stores, across the southeast. They haven't mentioned Lewis particularly, but there is one in Lewis. And it is very typical of what's happening to this town, is restaurants. There's Aqua that went, restaurants, small shops, and a number of restaurants have all shut up shop. And before everybody says, yeah, it's all Brexit. No, it's not. I've talked to specialists in this field, and it would appear it's the shifting nature of the population. We now have a lot of bankers and a lot of people who work in London. They get on the train at 7 o'clock in the morning, they get home at 7 o'clock at night. The last thing they want to do is to go out for dinner, and most of them have had a decent lunch in London. So, as a consequence, we're beginning to suffer because of the changing nature of the makeup of Lewis. And I think that actually the council has got to take account of that. We are changing in nature. We are changing in makeup. You know, Lewis is not what it was, so it needs fresh thinking. It's not getting it. Not getting it from its politicians. Certainly not getting it from those people who really should be concerned, and that is the citizens itself. So we're going to bang on about this over the next couple of weeks or so, and we shall ask members of the council what they're going to do about it. I don't think they're even aware of it yet. They don't talk to experts because they consider themselves to be the experts. Ha! There's the joke of the week. All right, this has been a very hurried refresher because the first one apparently didn't go out. We'll try hard now to make sure that this one does, so at least we've mentioned things which we thought was important on a Friday. So, fiddly-dee Friday. We'll be back on Monday morning. Until then, look forward to it. Bye.